Hey everybody, Mr. The Fanboy here, back for another video, and this time, this is my salute and rant and burial of the WWF Attitude. I added the salute part because, like I said, I did enjoy this period, and I still do enjoy this period, while I really don't like this period. When I was a kid, I was a huge fan of the Attitude Era. When I grew up and became a teenager, when I grew up and became a teenager, I stopped liking the Attitude Era, and ever since then, I've thought the Attitude Era was awesome and entertaining, but was so damn overrated. And today, it is still overrated by a lot of the WWE fans. They don't give credit to other key people who helped revolutionize the Attitude Era. They don't give credits to other promotions and other people. They instead pretend Vince McMahon came up with all of this, when you can see now, and even before that, in my favorite of the New Generation era, that wasn't true. And they like to act like everything about the Attitude Era was good. They like to act like it was constantly good stuff. It was constantly good stuff when it wasn't. But like I said, this is gonna get to. I'm gonna start off with the positives. Like I said, when I was a kid, I was a huge fan of the Attitude Era because I came into WWE around 95, 96, 95, 96. So and especially in '96, lots of rebuilding in WWE, lots of rebuilding in WWE, and while the Attitude Era technically didn't start until late 1997, when Vince McMahon finally introduced the Attitude Era, I consider the Attitude Era to have started around WrestleMania 13, and I consider the seeds the seeds the seeds that were planted the seeds that were planted for the Attitude Era started around Survivor Series, um 96, with, of course, Michaels being booed, um Mankind and the Mankind character you had, and the Nation of Domination. That's something real in comparison to all the cartoonish BS we got before that. And even before that, you saw other shades of the Attitude Era. I don't like Nash, but I do give him credit for the NWO and the Attitude Era, him snapping and power bombing all the referees, and Bret Hart in early '97, all of his temper tantrums and cursing, um in contrast to the family oriented heroic Bret Hart from the early to mid '90s. Um, and people starting to cheer Austin, the bad guy, and they did the same with Sid and Shawn Michaels, where he started booing Shawn Michaels because of his politics, and started cheering the bad guy Sid. So yeah, but I consider WrestleMania 13, when, after Bret Hart defeated Austin in the I Quit match, a double turn happened. Since Austin was so gutsy, refused to give up, the fans started cheering Austin, and they turned on Bret Hart. Bret Hart attacked Austin after the match, established himself as a heel, and now Austin was the face, and I consider that to be the official start of the Attitude Era. Because if you notice right here, even though WWE was still PG at this point, characters would become more edgier. Our heroes from the previous era, like Wikipedia said, would become edgier anti-heroes. Then you had characters like the late great Brian Pillman, the loose cannon, the original loose cannon. Um, Triple H was still that snob character, but he was starting to become more like his comedy DX character. So the characters, the Road Warriors, who were pretty much Attitude before it was cool. Attitude Era, before it was cool. They were before Austin was a cool heel. They were cool heels back in the '80s. Back in the '80s. And then you have Mosh and Thrasher, the headbangers, these metalheads, real tough guys wearing skirt with face paint. Um, you had who else in Japanese period? You had Shawn Michaels, who was also a precursor to the Attitude Era. Him with his what was his gimmick? Rock and roll gay stripper cowboy type guy. I don't know, but that gimmick was definitely a predecessor to the Attitude Era. Then of course, oh yeah, don't forget Sunny, the very first diva. Um, um, Undertaker went from the character he was in the comic book character he was in the early to mid '90s to the Lord of he went from the Phenom to the Lord of Darkness to the Lord of Darkness, and then of course the then later on he became when he founded the Ministry of Darkness, he became the Ministry Undertaker, the Ministry of Darkness Undertaker. Undertaker. Then of course later on the American Badass. So like I said, I like the development of each character. How these characters from the New Generation era, Austin, Rock, Road Dogg, Jeff Jarrett, Owen Hart before his death, Mark Merrill, the Wild Man, Mark Merrill, Triple H, Undertaker, Mankind. Even though I liked Cactus Jack better, and I liked Mankind. I liked his when he first came, the gimmick he had when he first came to WWE, the gimmick and attire he had when he first came to WWE. Um, um, King Shamrock mostly for most of his career, other than joining the corporation and changing tights, was for the most part the same character. Bob Holly, Hardcore Holly. Like I said, all those wrestlers right there, just just changing with the times and growing and become these um these new realistic serious characters. Then of course you had characters like then of course so characters allowed to be themselves, something they didn't that's something they didn't get to do in the New Generation era or the era before that. And they don't get to do now. They don't get to do now, which is totally killing the product. Another reason I don't watch anymore. Um, um, so characters being themselves. So yes, getting rid of the a lot of the cartoonish crap from the New Generation era, like the Duke the Dumpster guy, the Bastion Boogers. I love Mantar, but a human dinosaur, King Mabel. I thought they were better when they were men on a mission. Got rid of that King Mabel garbage, and Undertaker kidnapped him and rechristened him as Viscera, which I thought was awesome. Um, like I said, yeah. Next thing I like, whenever there was wrestling, awesome wrestling or fighting. I probably should say fighting because you saw lots of intense, realistic fighting. Not as good as WCW and ECW, but still pretty good, especially in like the mid card. The mid card pretty much had like awesome matches. I remember an awesome European title match between D'Lo Brown and Val Venus, and on that same night, SummerSlam '98, which was one of my all-time favorite pay-per-views of the Attitude Era, which was not only was it headlined by Undertaker and Stone Cold, it had the awesome AC/DC on a highway to hell song. Not only did it have that awesome song, but in Undertaker and Austin in the trailers, but it had D'Lo Brown. It had The Rock and Triple H ladder match, an awesome ladder match, and several other awesome matches like X-Pac and Jeff Jarrett. X-Pac and Jeff Jarrett, the tag team match between I think it was it was Edge Edge and Edge and Sable versus Mark Merrow and Jacqueline, awesome mixed tag team match. Awesome mixed tag team match. The Oddities and Michinoku match, that was the worst match on that card and the least memorable. But like I said, SummerSlam '98. That right there is one of my all-time favorite. That was right there one of my all-time favorite pay-per-views. '98 had a lot of good ones, with the exception of one of the more popular ones, which was WrestleMania 14. WrestleMania 14, and this right here was some of the bad stuff of the Attitude Era. I thought WrestleMania 14 was a really crappy WrestleMania. It was an entertaining WrestleMania, but I thought it was a garbage WrestleMania. I thought all the Attitude Era WrestleManias, for the most part, were kind of crap. My favorite is 16, 17, and 18, even though I consider 17 and 18 to be more ruthless, ruthless aggression, ruthless invasion, and ruthless aggression eras, which I'm going to get to later in this video. But going back to I thought 15, I thought 14, I thought WrestleManias 13, 14, 15, and 16 were garbage. 13 and 16 are actually two of my favorite WrestleManias, despite them being garbage. But I thought 14, but I thought all of these were garbage, and main reason I think they were garbage is because even though the Attitude Era was the most popular period of for WWE, this wasn't a period about wrestling, which is one of my other criticisms towards this era. Lots of segments devoted to non-wrestling, talking on a wrestling show. See, the Attitude Era, Vince Russo and Ed Ferrara, two of the main guys behind the Attitude Era, this whole Attitude Era, they were influenced by South Park and Jerry Springer. Jerry Springer, a show I never really cared for, and South Park, a show I never really liked. I never liked South Park. They were influenced by shows like that and various other things in pop culture, so they incorporated those into WWE. So you usually got like a lot of segments, a lot of garbage soap opera stuff, bra and panty matches. I never liked bra and panty matches, or the tuxedo match, which is the male equivalent of a bra and panty match. They always made wrestling look silly and stupid, and I prefer women who can wrestle, who can entertain and wrestle, just like the men, So yeah, like I said, segments dedicated to non wrestling. While I enjoyed the Austin and Vince McMahon feud, that is not, in my opinion, that is not like the best feud ever. It was awesome because it was unique and something we weren't seeing. But a wrestler versus an owner of a company, in my opinion, is not the best feud of all time. I'm sorry, I can't say that as a wrestling fan. A feud between an owner and an owner of a company, the best feud of all time. And while the feud was entertaining, Vince McMahon, especially McMahon with his promos, constantly taking most of the time. Whenever I watch classic Attitude Era stuff, I find myself fast forwarding through his promos, and looking back, even as a kid, I sometimes found it annoying that I actually enjoyed it when Austin would come and kick his butt. When anyone would come and kick his butt, he was boring the crap out of me. Then of course, and we still have to put up, because of the McMahon character being so damn popular, we still got to put up with stuff like that today with Triple H and Stephanie, who also in the latter part of this era, the 2000, the McMahon Helmsley era. Back then, once it was good because we haven't seen it. We haven't seen it all the time. Stephanie was like first off made her debut at like 99 as a face. then went through was kidnapped and all that stuff with Undertaker. Then after several storylines with different wrestlers, finally turned heel when she turned on her father and started the McMahon Helmsley era. See, this soap opera stuff right here, as entertaining as it was back then, this is what made wrestling look bad in the mainstream. You know, the Attitude Era was popular. A lot of people didn't like what they were seeing on TV. You even see Bruno Sammartino, up until WWE cleaned up their act. He wanted nothing to do with WWE. He wanted nothing to do with WWE. Um, he wanted nothing to do with WWE, and of course Triple H and Stephanie, we still have to put up with them today. Even in the going into the Ruthless Aggression era, the PWI magazine gives an award for most offensive or disgusting topic, and the most offensive and disgusting topic in 2003, it was 2002 or 3, and that was McMahon's all over the product, in the way of the wrestling. And we still have to put up with that today with this crappy garbage authority storyline. But at least those storylines back then were entertaining. They were just taking up time and making wrestling look bad. So so yeah, you got that right there, and then of course you got Triple H and yeah, you got Triple H. So I mean, before I get to Triple H, then of course, speaking of offensive material and a lot of people not liking what was going on, the worst thing ever. The 90s and the Attitude Era were about pushing the envelope. Were about going to the extreme, taking it too far, taking it too far. And one example of that is Vince Russo riding the Owen Hart Blue Blazer stunt, lowering it from the ceiling. Here's what I hate about this. Of course, first off, it's mostly Vince Russo's fault. Even though I'm going to blame Vince McMahon, and here's why I'm going to blame Vince McMahon. This idea was stupid. Vince McMahon, and it pisses me off how Vince McMahon today credits himself for being the filter, for Vince Russo. A lot of stuff they didn't make it on screen, so a lot of stuff they didn't make it on screen. There was lots of garbage and stuff that made it to that made it to the screen. That made it to the screen. So I hate the fact that Vince, not only did he not see that this storyline right here was stupid. Not only am I mad that Vince McMahon did not see that this storyline right here was dumb, but he had the nerve and the gall to say he was the filter for a lot of crap when there was lots of crap on TV. One storyline, I didn't pay much attention to it when I was younger, but now how terrible it was. There were Vince Russo, this is a signature of his. A lot of these shoot promos, some of them are good, some of them weren't. Here's an example of a bad one. There was this Beaver cleavage storyline between a wrestler named a deceased female wrestler, the deceased female wrestler Mrs. Cleavage, and Maj and Maj and Thrasher. Anyway, in this storyline, anyway, in this storyline, Maj, Maj, I think it was Maj. It was one of them, but one of them were like, I can't do this gimmick anymore. I can't do this gimmick anymore. And then, like the Wrestling Roundtable said, okay, so you're trying to convince us that this is real, but everything before that was fake. Like the Wrestling Roundtable, Eric Santamaria of the Wrestling Roundtable said, get out of here. You're trying to convince us that that segment right there was real, but everything we saw before that was fake. So right there shows he was not the filter. Then speaking of another garbage storyline, even worse than that was the Kai and Tai Valvina storyline where they cut off Valvina's penis. Anything associated with Kai and Tai, in my opinion, were garbage. Taka Michinoku was better in New Japan. He also made an appearance at ECW Barely Legal. He sucked in WWE, in my opinion, and didn't belong in didn't belong in this gimmicky, heavy American promotion. Did not belong in WWE, especially the Attitude Era. They had that annoying dubbed over voice. Yeah, like I said, anything associated with them, I guess that wasn't wrestling was absolutely garbage. Then another Val Venus. Val Venus, this guy was awesome. Had the look, had the talent, the mic skills, but his gimmick was just straight up garbage, man. And anything associated with Val Venus that was not wrestling or cutting a promo, I thought he was good on the mic, was garbage. Any storyline, any vignette with him was garbage. Next was Godfather. I like I keep forgetting his real name, but I'm actually a fan of the Godfather, the wrestler. But I didn't like his gimmick. I like the previous two gimmicks he had. The what I like to call the shoot fighting, the ultimate fighting, the shoot fighting gimmick, the Kamala, the Supreme Fight Machine gimmick, where he was using those boxing MMA maneuvers, shoot fighting maneuvers, and of course his the Nation of Domination gimmick. The Godfather gimmick, while I love his music, and several of his finishing moves. This gimmick was garbage, man. A pimp, really, really. It was cool because it worked in that time, but this gimmick will be totally crapped on if it appeared today, and probably be offend a lot of people if it appeared today. Nerdy crap like this. Nerdy crap like this, and and so yeah crappy gimmicks, mismutilation of Dean Malenko. Since the Attitude Era wasn't about wrestling, Dean Malenko, they WWE sent him to the light heavy. They had to send him to the cruiserweight light heavyweight division because the Attitude Era fans didn't care to see him. A great wrestler like Dean Malenko jobbing to Too Cool, the Worst, and the Hardy Boys. When huge fan of the Hardy Boys, but Malenko could whoop all those guys and make them tap in under a minute, man. Um, they didn't use Perry Saturn all that well either. What's his name? So yeah, like I said, de-emphasizing de-emphasizing wrestling, and lots of nerdy material that would be mocked and made fun of if it were to debut today. Some of it I liked, some of it I didn't, like. Um, Another garbage storyline. Mark Henry giving birth to a Mark Henry giving birth to a hand, even though that was funny when the hand showed up on I keep forgetting what episode of Raw it was, but yeah, that's how much WWE sucks these days. I remember some of these segments, but I don't remember the shows they were on. Um, but yeah, and then you got, like I said, going back to so yeah, I mentioned the WrestleManias not being good. I mentioned the WrestleManias not being good. WrestleMania 13, 14, 15, 15, and 16 not being good. 16 is actually my favorite because of the I enjoyed the hardcore battle royal. I also enjoyed the three-way intercontinental title European match between Chris Benoit, Kurt Angle, and Jericho. I also enjoyed the TLC match between Edge and Christian versus the Hardy Boys versus the Dudley Boys, and of course the main event, McMahon in every corner. Other than that, it was very gimmicky, and every match was a tag team match, was a tag team match. But I enjoyed I enjoyed WrestleMania 16. It has a mixed reception amongst fans. A lot of people like myself who was huge wrestling fan at the time loved it. A lot of people don't. WrestleMania 15. I enjoy WrestleMania 15, but I think this is a crappy WrestleMania. Apart from the main event, apart from Austin, the main event, which was Austin and The Rock, and the match between Mankind and Triple H. The rest of this stuff you can watch on Raw. I also enjoyed the three-way match between I think it was Road Dogg, Billy Gunn, and Ken Shamrock for the Intercontinental title. I can't remember whether it was Road Dogg or Val Venus in the match, but this whole thing, that whole pay up until Mankind and Big Show and The Rock and Stone Cold, that whole thing, oh yeah, it's in X Pac and Shane O'Mac where Triple H turned on X Pac. That whole thing could have been on Raw, but at least that's one thing. One thing I love about WrestleMania in the '80s, '90s, and 2000s, that in the 2000s, not the 2010s, was that WrestleMania back then felt like a pay per view and felt like an epic show, even though some of these shows were kind of crap. Versus now, where it's just a bland show. It's just a bland and boring show. Then you got WrestleMania 14. Then you got WrestleMania 14. Apart from the return of the Road Warriors, the Undertaker and Kane match wasn't that, which in my opinion really isn't that good by today's standards. And The Rock and Ken Shamrock, love that feud and love their matches. Rock and Ken Shamrock Intercontinental title match where Shamrock snapped, body slammed all those referees and would not release the ankle hold on The Rock, and Rock was crying like a girl. That was awesome and funny. And of course the main event between Shawn Michaels and Austin, where Mike Tyson counts to 1, 2, 3, and Michaels tries to take a shot at Tyson, and Tyson decks him. And Austin officially kick-starting the Attitude Era, even though I consider the Attitude Era to have started before that, but officially right here kick-starting um the um the Attitude Era. But I thought WrestleMania 14 sucked, man. I didn't think there was really anything good about it. Like I said, the only thing good was the return of the Road Warriors with LOD 2000 with their new badass gear, and um Rock and Shamrock Intercontinental title match, World Heavyweight title match, and the World Heavyweight title match between Shawn Michaels and Stone Cold. Like I said, Undertaker and Kane match was a good match, but in my opinion, by today's standards, that really isn't that good of a match, in my opinion. WrestleMania 13, I thought WrestleMania 13 sucked. I thought WrestleMania 13 sucked. The only three matches I cared about was the only four matches I cared about and the Sultan, who was actually Rikishi. Nobody really cared about this match because of course, Rock and Rikishi weren't really all that over at this point. No one cared until the end where Rocky Johnson got involved. The tag team match with I think it was Owen Hart and British Bulldog versus Ahmed Johnson and the Road Warriors. Don't remember it very well, but yeah, that match right there, the Psycho Sid and Undertaker title match, and of course the very awesome, what this pay per view is best remembered for, and that is the Austin Bret Hart I Quit match. But take that out, that whole thing felt like every other WWE show you saw. Felt like every other WWE show you saw, but at least once again, it felt like WrestleMania. It felt like WrestleMania, something I don't see today. So, I thought 17 and 18 were good. Awesome shows, awesome match quality. Only thing I don't like about 18 was Triple H having to go last. Dumbass actually thought he was gonna be more popular than Rock and Hogan. His match was gonna be bigger than Rock and Hogan. So yeah, Um, yeah. This right here. This right here was my salute and burial of the Attitude Era. Like I said, I enjoyed the Attitude Era. I would mark out if a lot of these wrestlers were to come back today, but this era, like I said, was garbage and is not as good as people make it out to be, especially after seeing, especially after understanding what led up to this era and seeing ECW, the original Attitude Era, with their Extreme ECW, UFC from 98 till about up until 2008 when Brock Lesnar started fighting, which was real fighting, all the other promotions, independent promotions in the 2000s and today, and all the international promotions. Yeah, it is really kind of hard to come back to this really fake stuff, really fake stuff. Yeah, like I said, this was my salute, rant, and burial of the Attitude Era. All right, Doug out.